On today's show, Clearing the Air, the program between the Community Health Foundation and the Tulsa Health Department to help students understand the impact of tobacco on American lives. We'll learn the effect Flash Focus had on the students' lives, families, and communities as I sit down with them in a compelling series of interviews. And Changing Lives, how the faculty members here at Webster High School feel must be done to further educate students on tobacco's life-threatening consequences. I'm Reginald Fields, and this is Flash Focus 2013. Well, the Community Health Foundation of Tulsa, their mission is to create a healthier Tulsa, and recently one of their initiatives is to help the community by showing students how cigarettes have an impact. And I have Gabby right here. She's a student here at Webster High School, and she participated in the project. Tell me a little bit about the project and what you did and how you feel it has an impact on our community, cigarettes.
Well, I learned a lot of stats and stuff that I didn't really know, like how many chemicals are in cigarettes, which is like 4,000, and like 60 of those chemicals can cause cancer. Mm-hmm. And going out and taking pictures, I noticed that like a lot of places are recognizing no smoking, but still have places to go, and even though they do have those places, they still do affect other people around that aren't necessarily smoking, but they still get the secondhand smoke, and it still affects them.
So there's 3 different types of smoking, I understand. First degree, or first hand, not degree, sorry. First hand, second hand, and third hand. First hand would be an actual person smoking. Second hand, which a lot of people know from all the commercials and media, is people who are around you.
Being around people who smoke,
yes. Being affected by that. And then there's third hand. I don't think a lot of people know about that. What is that?
Third hand smoke is, you know, say like a person is around someone who smokes, and then the smoke gets attached to your clothes or maybe your stuff, and then you take that around someone else, and the smoke that has landed on you or your things can affect somebody. It's not just the actual smoke itself, but it's landing on things, and you still smell that smoke, and that still has all the chemicals and everything in it that can harm you. Yeah, and young people are mainly the target because, you know, if you start buying cigarettes whenever you turn 18, because you're addicted to cigarettes, then you're going to be buying them for the rest of your life. True. Whereas if, you know, you start smoking when you're 30, you're not going to be buying them as long, so that's not going to pull in as much money as it would if you were younger.
Yes.
I looked at it as an open door for me because I kind of had people in my family that smoked, and, you know, it affected me in a way because I don't want to end up like them. I had the struggles that they had, so, yeah.
Now, as far as like the scientific part of tobacco's impact, we need soil, we need grass, we need nature, of course, as humans. And so when people take these cigarette butts, not only do cigarettes have an impact on you once you smoke them and the people around you and your clothing, as we mentioned before, but when you're taking the buds and you're throwing them on the ground, they're not going anywhere. They're ruining the environment, potentially. What do you think people can do? Describe to people what they can do. If you're going to smoke cigarettes, sure, that's going to affect you, but you also don't have to simultaneously, of course, ruin the environment. Tell us what we can do to stop that.
Well, like there are designated areas where they have like this cone-shaped thing, and they're sanding it, but people just throw it on the ground anyways. So maybe if we have like trash cans around, like buildings, hospitals, maybe they won't throw them on the ground as much.
Yes, and people also have to take it upon themselves to say, you know, I'm a smoker, I can't stop, but just because I'm a smoker, do I really have to affect other people? People smoke with their children in the room, elderly people in the room. Of course, in society, the people most at risk for diseases are the young and the elderly because of their immune systems.
Yes, I have my Aunt Linda and my grandmother. My grandmother had passed, and my Aunt Linda had passed because of smoking. And I think my grandmother, she had worked at this warehouse, so it's all kinds of chemicals in that warehouse. And then she would leave and smoke, and that kind of affected her. And she did it till she died. Like, she stopped the year before she died, but she had been smoking so long, so those chemicals were stuck in her, and so she passed.
So when people smoke, they're not really realizing how they're going to change the world in a bad way over time. So when you took these pictures, did it affect you personally? Like, did you think, wow, maybe we should do something about this?
I felt like so, I can't think of the word. I was like upset because I would die if one of my family members had gotten lung cancer, having to hold their voice box in place so they can talk. I mean, that's happened to my uncle, and I couldn't bear to be around him. Seeing it just made me so upset.
People fail to realize that in cigarettes, 60 of those chemicals can produce cancer, and they're cancerous. And with that being said, some people can't have kids because their reproductive organs get infected by the smoke.
Michaela, you're a student here at Webster, and you participated in this program documenting tobacco impact on your community and also taking pictures. Describe to me some of the things that you took pictures of.
Well, what I mostly took pictures of is like how cigarette butts are just laying on the ground and no one's picking them up because they aren't biodegradable. So the soil is just getting ruined. You can't just imagine someone trying to plant something. That soil won't be strong enough to make the plant grow. So,
I mean, as long I know for me personally, I don't smoke, but I do have friends that do, and if they knew like what all could harm them from just that one hit of a cigarette, like putting all that into your body is not good for it.
Or in any other households how tobacco has affected them?
Well, yes, like in my home, my grandmother smokes, and from her smoking and I smoke, it tends to turn like the walls and cabinets brown. So I mean, I have clothes shirts and stuff that then change colors from over the years of smoking, and it's really bad.
Tobacco, specifically cigarettes, has over 4,000 chemicals in it, and those chemicals have once combined into the cigarette have a very distinct smell that doesn't really go away, and it kind of stays with you once you start smoking cigarettes. And also once people begin smoking, they don't realize that it's not as easy to get over as it may seem. You can't get stopped. Like I said, it's an addiction. And so you did this project along with the Community Health Foundation where you were supposed to document how tobacco has affected the community that you live in. And describe to me the process of putting together a project like that.
Well, I just use most of my materials from my house, because my parents and stuff smoke, grandparents. If I was to go to school, I have people who tell me that my clothes might smoke, or they ask me, do I smoke, which I don't. But I came across a lot of things in my house that was just tearing apart, stuff, turning colors. It's not good.
That's, your parents may not have thought about that, or anyone in your household that smokes. They may haven't thought, this is not just something that I'm doing to make me feel good. This can actually go to school
it hurts.
With my child. And
yes.
Of course, it can have an impact on them as well because cigarettes have tar in them, which can destroy your lungs. And so, no one wants a family member to die of
cancer
from tobacco.
Yes.
60 chemicals in cigarettes that are cancer-causing. When you did your project and you took all these pictures and put together all this information for the exhibit, we know what you were thinking because you were focused on the project, of course, but were you thinking about how this affected you at home? Were you thinking maybe this needs to stop, maybe it's gone too far? I mean, were you thinking I will never smoke? I don't know. Tell me about that.
Yeah, well, to me, I don't really like smoke. I can't stand it. I don't like being around it, period. So I think it's bad, and I think we should get rid of smoking, period, just cigarettes itself.
There's a lot of different initiatives, I guess you could say, like, what's the name? Breathe Easy, which you see on a lot of signs everywhere where you can't smoke in a building, but then people leave the building and smoke and then return to their jobs. As far as monetary costs for Medicaid, and this is just in Oklahoma, $218 million spent on Medicaid, paid through both federal programs and, of course, federal programs meaning taxpayers.
Yes.
$218 million coming out to $547 per household. Once people start smoking, they oftentimes, when they develop a disease or something like COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disorder, they have to take time off work. So that really affects the economy. And we have a lot of problems today with the economy in general. Yes. So, I mean, I'm sure tobacco is the last thing we need in the community affecting that. So after you completed your project and you saw how it affected your community and you participated, now I'm sure you realize, something has to change, right?
Yes, a lot has to change.
The focus of this whole project from the Tulsa Health Department is to make sure that our students, not only students, but our community know the impact that tobacco has on them long term. So many times our students and families, they get caught up within just the moment. Hey, let me just have this one cigarette or let me just have a couple of cigarettes, and they don't understand the long-term effect that it has not only on them, but their children. And so that's why my goal as a principal, as a leader within the community, is to make sure that our students and our parents and members of the community understand the long-term effects that not only tobacco but other tobacco-related products have as far as their health is concerned.
Well, as an adult, I've been interviewing kids this whole time, high school kids. You probably know other adults who are parents who smoke. Tulsa Health Department actually has a program called A Healthy Start. It's a preventative program trying to get new parents and even maybe more experienced parents to understand that tobacco, really, it's not anything that your children should be exposed to. Explain the real reason that program is needed and why people
It's needed because I believe once we teach the families to break the cycle, then therefore the students the kids will stop utilizing tobacco. I believe a lot of our students now who are utilizing tobacco, their parents have been utilizing tobacco, so therefore it becomes a perpetual cycle.
I did before when I was in middle school, but I quit whenever I got to high school. Well, for one, it just gets nasty after a while, and both of my parents smoke, and so I got to see the consequences of that. And plus, it's expensive, and there's a lot of reasons why.
Okay, so have you ever smoked?
Yes, I have. I quit 8 years ago, and I had smoked for about 15 years.
What made you quit?
Actually, it's because my husband he smoked also. He had upper respiratory problems due to smoking, and I knew he could not quit if I kept smoking, so we both quit.
What are some of the consequences of smoking?
Bad consequences or good? Bad consequences? Well, my husband has a COPD, which is an upper respiratory infection all the time. I realize that my allergies are not as bad now that I've quit smoking. Other than that, for me, I didn't have very many repercussions, except my allergies have lessened somewhat.
Okay. What are your... Okay. Have you ever smoked?
Yes, I smoked when I was young, and I quit because I realized the consequences of smoking. I was concerned about my health. I was concerned about my grandchild who was getting ear infections all the time, so I stopped because of my health.
Well, that completes today's segment. From the Flash Focus team and Webster High School, have a wonderful day.